The alien prison ship floated in the middle of deep space, cold and silent from outside, but filled with fear and noise inside. Inside one of its dark metal halls, cages lined the walls, holding prisoners from many planets. Among them sat a human soldier named Ethan Cole. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were calm. The alien guards, called Varkari, laughed when they saw him. Earth Boy, they called him. Weak, soft, useless. Ethan didn't reply. He just sat there quietly, watching everything. The Varkari believed humans were not made for war. They didn't know that Ethan had seen more battles than they could imagine. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang. It was time for the arena. One by one, prisoners were selected. When Ethan's name was called, the guards expected him to panic. But he stood up slowly, his face cold and still. They threw him into a giant arena, full of dead bodies, strange weapons, and alien creatures. He had nothing in his hands. Everyone watching waited to see him die. But Ethan didn't run. He picked up a broken bone, dodged the first attack, and stabbed an alien in one smooth move. The crowd fell silent. The Varkari commanders leaned forward. This human was different. Ethan was thrown back into his cell, but this time something had changed. The guards didn't laugh anymore. They looked at him from behind the energy shield, whispering in their own language. One of them even stayed longer, just staring at him like he was trying to figure something out. Ethan sat in the corner of his dark cell, quiet as always, but in his mind, he was replaying every second of the fight, every move the aliens made, every weakness they showed. He wasn't just fighting to survive. He was studying them. He had noticed how the Varkari moved in patterns, how their weapons were heavy but slow, and how they expected their enemies to panic. But Ethan never panicked. He learned fast, faster than they could believe. In the control room above, alien commanders were watching the recording again and again. One of them said, "He's not fighting like a human. He's planning, like a strategist." Another replied, "That's impossible. Humans don't do that." But the fear in their voices grew. The next day, Ethan was called to the arena again. This time, they gave him a weapon, a strange alien blade. They wanted to test him. They wanted to see if it was luck. But Ethan already knew this was no longer a game. It was a war, and he had just become the Varkari's greatest problem. The arena was louder this time. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, excited to watch the strange human fight again. But Ethan didn't care about their noise. He stepped into the sand with quiet eyes, holding the alien blade tightly in his hand. Across from him stood two fighters, taller, stronger, and armed with spiked armor. The Varkari wanted to crush his confidence, to show the crowd that his first victory was just luck. But Ethan was already studying them, watching how they breathed, how they moved, how they held their weapons. As the bell rang, the two warriors charged together, roaring loudly. Ethan didn't move right away. He waited, just for 1 second, then stepped aside and used their own strength against them. One fell to the ground, and the other hesitated, just long enough for Ethan to strike. The alien blade cut through armor like paper. The crowd gasped. Even the commanders stood up from their seats. No one had ever seen a human fight like this. Back in the control room, a Varkari general said, "He is adapting too quickly. This is dangerous." Another whispered, "He's learning our style faster than we can stop him." Ethan stood in the arena, blood on his blade, breathing slow and calm. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply looked up at the viewing platform, straight into the eyes of the alien commanders. For the first time, the Varkari didn't see a prisoner. They saw a threat. That night, Ethan wasn't taken back to the regular prison cells. Instead, he was moved to a high-security chamber, deep inside the ship where the walls were thicker and the guards more alert. Cameras watched him from every corner. The Varkari didn't speak to him anymore. They only watched. They were afraid, but they didn't want to admit it. In the command center, the Varkari leaders argued. One said, "We should kill him now. He's too dangerous." Another replied, "No, he can teach us something. We need to understand how a human can do this." While they debated, Ethan sat alone, quiet and still, but not resting. He was thinking, planning. He had seen their technology. He knew the layout of the arena tunnels. Every time he fought, he saw more of the ship. And now he was ready. The next morning, they sent him into the arena again, but this time it was different. The floor shifted, the lights blinked, and drones flew above. The Varkari had set a trap. They wanted to see if he could handle chaos, confusion, and unpredictability. But Ethan moved with perfect control. He used the drones against the fighters, tricked the machines into firing at their own soldiers, and turned the arena into a trap for them. When it was over, he stood alone again, untouched, breathing slow. In the control room, silence fell. One commander whispered, "He doesn't fight like a soldier. He fights like he was born for war." Ethan looked up once more, his eyes cold, focused. He wasn't trying to survive anymore. He was preparing to escape. And if he escaped, the Varkari knew he would come back with more humans. The Varkari ship was on high alert. Extra guards were posted near Ethan's chamber. Drones patrolled every hall, and weapons were fully charged. But the fear had already spread. Ethan wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He had become a symbol of something the Varkari didn't understand. A human who could learn their tactics, defeat their best warriors, and turn their technology against them. Deep inside the ship, Ethan waited for the right moment. He had memorized the patrol times, learned how the energy doors reacted to heat, and even used pieces of broken armor hidden from previous matches. That night, when the lights dimmed for ship maintenance, Ethan made his move. With perfect timing, he escaped his chamber, disabled 2 guards silently, and slipped into the ventilation system. Cameras caught a glimpse of him, but by the time the alarms rang, he was already in the core hallway. Inside the command center, the Varkari panicked. "He's inside the engine level," one screamed. "He's heading toward the drop pods." But it was too late. Ethan reached the launch bay and fought through elite soldiers like a ghost in the dark. He moved like he could see the future. Finally, he entered a drop pod, programmed the coordinates, and launched into space. The ship shook as the pod broke free, disappearing into the stars. The Varkari commanders stared at the screen in silence. One finally said, "He escaped, and now he knows everything about us." But what scared them more was the last message Ethan had carved into the wall of his cell before escaping. Just 5 words. "Humans are coming for you."